This story is about me. That's right, about Miss Kim. But it's about me back in the 4th grade, so that means we're going all the way back to year 2000 when I was smaller. This story is about when I first moved to America and how the elements of the right side brain helped me adjust. Here we go. It was first day of school, and boy was I scared. Will I make friends? Do I look funny? I worried about so many things as it got closer and closer to my own class, room N, with Mrs. Lewis. We were still outside, all lined up. Then Mrs. Lewis came towards me and said, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Lewis. What is your name?" I quietly replied, "Dinah." "Perfect! You'll be the perfect addition to our symphony," she said. Huh? I thought to myself. We were in the classroom. Wow, these are really awesome desks. How orange, how bright, and wow, how it opens to hold all these things. What a cool design. But I can't understand anything. Do I have to design my own learning? I had realized because I couldn't understand English, I had to design my own learning experience. I pulled out my translator. Wow, this is so functional. It combines utility and significance. What an awesome design. It will help me learn. I sat on the bench while other kids played during recess. I didn't have any friends. Then Sarah and Ben came to me and said, "Hi, we've been in your shoes. We've been new. Will you play with us?" These kind friends showed me empathy because they felt with me, not for me. I smiled. Ben, Sarah, and I got to play. Play was so much fun. It really made the rest of my entire day so much more fun, even when I couldn't understand everything. I learned that play is so, so, so important, even for adults. "Wow, friends, we did so many things today," Mrs. Lewis said. "Math, PE, English. We even crossed boundaries to make connections between ideas. Let's remember to move beyond details and look at the big picture. Just like how we're all so different, but we come together as a one big symphony." This entire day had so much meaning to me. It was important. All the designs of this classroom, the way I designed my own learning, the way my friends show me empathy. Wow, what a meaningful day, I thought. Wow, you had such a meaningful day. If you look at all of today's pieces as a big picture, this whole day could be a story. Stories are powerful because it's a way to communicate context enriched by emotion. "You must tell your story one day," she said. And I did.
It was the first day of school in Mrs. Lee's first grade class. She was so excited to start her first writing lesson with her students. During her lesson, students were allowed to write whatever story they wanted. They just had to use their 6 senses. Confused by what this meant, everyone sat there with blank looks on their faces until finally a student raised their hand and said, "What are the 6 senses, and how are we supposed to use them to help us write stories? I thought stories were just words we write on paper." Baffled by this comment, Mrs. Lee told her students, "Oh no, friends, stories are much more than just words. Stories are our memories. They are like art. By using our 6 senses, it can help us write beautiful and elaborate stories. Let me tell you about the 6 senses." She began to tell her students about the 6 senses. There are 6 senses we need to help us write stories: big picture, memory, creativity, emotions, purpose, and fun. By using these 6 senses, we can create anything we want. Let me show you some examples. Let's start with the big picture. The big picture is a big idea or memory that you have. It helps you start thinking about what you want to write. For example, There once was a boy named Billy Bob. Billy loved to play with toys. Once you have a big picture, pick a specific memory that really means something to you. For example, Billy Bob loved to play with toys, but out of all his toys, he loved to play with his cars. Now that we have a specific memory, we have to start getting creative with our story. Design it in a way that engages our readers. One day, when Billy was playing with his cars, he decided he wanted to take them on a race around the house. So he asked if his sister Susie wanted to race him. After you start getting creative, you have to think about how the story makes you feel and how you want the reader to feel. They started their race in the kitchen. Billy knew his cars were going to be fastest. He could hear his heart pounding with excitement. Once you have the reader's attention, make sure you are able to give a purpose as to why you are writing the story. Susie raced her car down the hall. She was so far in front of Billy, but instead of giving up, Billy was determined to win. He pushed his car as fast as he could and showed us how determined he was to not give up. In the end, Billy won. Mrs. Lee turned to her class and said, "So you see, class, after your story is done, it's important to remember how much fun writing is. Writing does not have to be a drag. It's supposed to be creative and fun. So do your best and don't give up, just like Billy."
Hey everyone, this is a true story about my first day of school by Matthew Miyazaki. That's me. And just like many of you, I had a roller backpack when I was a kid. Unlike most school stories, this one happened at the end of the day when the bell rang. It was a long bell, and I was ready to go home. I was so excited. I waited outside for my parents to pick me up, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited until I was the last child to pick up zone. I was very confused and sad. I thought my parents had forgotten about me and didn't know what to do. That's when one of the workers asked me where my parents were. I had no idea. So the worker did some investigation, and I was supposed to be in daycare. That's when my new countdown began until I could go home. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited until my mom picked me up after work and I could go home. The end. Thanks for listening. Yeah.